$162,000 Indian students in the US, contributing roughly $5 billion in tuition fee. But more important, a lot of them go back as goodwill ambassadors of US back into India. But a lot of them come to US because there's opportunity to get ROI on the investment, especially on the optional training program and beyond itself. The current administration, executive order and some perception of limiting that. Where do you see that going and the impact on students coming to the US from India itself?
Well, thank you, and thanks very much for having me and for bringing up the important topic of the importance of higher education as a bedrock of a relationship between the United States and India. Because I do think, first of all, it's one of the most prominent and important aspects of the America's brand globally, is the attractiveness of its higher education system. And India, of course, has been partaking of it with the second highest number of students here registered in the United States. We have over 1 million students from abroad. India, as I said, second largest, but with still quite a bit of room to go. China, for example, has nearly twice the level, over 350,000 students coming in. So we still think there's plenty of room to attract the best and the brightest. It builds a remarkable foundation for economic, social, political relationships across the countries, because our best universities in the United States now, and there are many of them, are truly global institutions. Our faculty are global. Our administration are global. The number of Indian presidents of major American universities, business schools, and others is stunningly large. Essentially, the student body now has become increasingly international. And that's building relationships that will pay and bear fruits in so many sectors of it. But as you point out, we have seen, and it's still early days to see what the impacts are, but two areas, the visa restrictions that obviously were not directed towards India in any shape or any way, shape, or form, but nevertheless seem to suggest perhaps a change in America's attitude towards its openness and willingness to accept international students. And because India is makes such a large portion of that, you saw a dramatic drop in applications this year from Indian students. And that concerns us, because here's a policy not directed towards Indian students, but nevertheless creates a mindset perhaps, or a worry that the welcome mat is not as open as it always has been. And if students were targeted from one country or the other now, what guarantee is that we're not going to be targeted later on? So we've seen a dramatic drop in applications. And I hope that that's just a temporary blip and not sort of more of a longer term trend. The second thing we've seen, and I do want to place this on the table because it has an impact on the economic relationship, is that 85 to 90% of the students coming from India are majoring in science, tech, business. And of course that's a good thing because it does have, as you say, an ROI. But on the other hand, what we're starting to see now that our universities have become global is if you can start to build up a financial aid base from charitable giving, from philanthropy, from corporate giving and others, you'll start to see a wider range of subject matters covered in American universities. And I think for India as an actor and a player on the world, that's important. Because if you start to see students moving into the social sciences and humanities, as well as science and engineering, you're going to see a stronger cadre of Indian officials, Indian global players, Indian multilateral players. And I think building up that base, that philanthropic base, for ensuring Indian leadership in the world, I think is really important.